I wanted to do a deep dive into humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. And while this won't be comprehensive, Walter, I wanted you to also, sort of weigh in here as I kind of set this up. Because this week, the World Health Organization issued a dire warning about the amount of malnourishment happening in Gaza. And here is a little bit of their statement.
Over 8,000 children under 5 years old have been diagnosed and treated for acute malnutrition, including 1,600 children with severe acute malnutrition. However, due to insecurity and lack of access, only 2 stabilization centers for severely malnourished patients can operate. Our inability to provide health services safely, combined with the lack of clean water and sanitation, significantly increased the risks of malnourished children. There have already been 32 deaths attributed to malnutrition, including 28 among children under 5 years old.
32 deaths attributed to starvation, and 8,000 children who face malnourishment currently. According to the UN, more than 1 million people, half of Gaza's population, are expected to, in their words, expected to face death and starvation by mid-July, in 1 month. It is dire. And I want to take you through a little bit of why it's dire, where aid is actually getting in and not. So CNN, surprisingly, put this map together that I thought was very helpful. And if you're listening, I'll just explain it, because there's a number of crossings, and they go through, well, what crossings are open? How could trucks, should there be trucks? And should those trucks have anything in them for people? And should they be allowed to get in? How would they get in? So we start with the Erez crossing. It's been closed. That's in the north. It's been closed since May 9th after a brief opening on May 1st. Gate 96, this is the one that is specifically up against Israel in 1948. It is closed. Rafah crossing on the very south. No aid has entered since May 5th. That's over a month now. That's in the very south. Next to it, Kerem Shalom crossing operated with limited functionality since May 8th. So, okay, there's one. We've got one. Back to the north. Western Erez opened on May 12th. So that's 2. The U.S. built floating pier, and then we'll talk exactly about what just happened to it. Limited open. So there's 3 places that aid could get in. Nothing has come through Rafah. The other graph that they have following up this map is a look at how many trucks have actually gotten in through those 2 crossings in the south, Rafah and Kerem Shalom. Now you can see, if you're listening, there's kind of like an up and down. There's like 150 trucks and then 50 trucks, and from Rafah it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Same with Kerem Shalom, kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. Nothing is over 250 trucks. And then on May 7th, which is when Israel launched operations into Rafah, there is a massive dip, and literally nothing is getting in, at least not through Rafah. And then we see in the last month, there's just been a few trucks that have been allowed to get in through Kerem Shalom. So that's sort of the broad look at it. Which means that a lot of the aid has come in through this pier. According to The Guardian, the pier has become the sole entry point for most aid other than fuel after Israeli forces seized control of Rafah. In the 6 weeks since, just a total of 627 trucks have passed the second crossing point, Kerem Shalom, a fraction of what aid groups say is needed. But back to the pier. The military said they've overseen the delivery of 1,573 metric tons of aid, equivalent to 50 to 105 trucks, according to UN estimates. But that's just a fifth of the number that entered the territory before the war began. The World Food Program said the main bulk of those trucks that entered during through the pier came in 8 days. 137 trucks made it off that dock during the 8 days the pier was operational last month. Now, why am I saying was operational? Well, because it's been on and off. So just recently, June 14th, the floating aid pier has been dismantled, temporarily stopped because of rough seas. This is, I think, the second or third time this has happened, and perhaps this will be a permanent dismantling. It does not seem to be effective. Again, it is not delivering much aid at all. but it's also incredibly difficult to maintain. That's $250 million of our taxpayer money. So I just wanted to stop there because to like give you a sense, Walter, of like how much, where is aid actually getting through? And it seriously, it seems like this pier was the only place, and now even that's gone.
Wow. Those are some numbers right there. And you got it from CNN.
Yeah. CNN
I mean,
says
I can't
that,
believe CNN is just so anti-Semitic. Why do they hate Israel so much?
honestly,
You know?
yeah.
God.
Yes,
Just
I mean,
so I mean, I used to like CNN until they just became, so anti-Semitic.
Jake Tapper just couldn't do it alone. At some point, facts had to drip in. The resulting overall quantity of aid entering Gaza has dropped by 67%. This is, again, before the October 7th attacks. So the daily average of 58 trucks between May 7th and May 28th. For comparison, the UN reported that an average 500 trucks entered the strip per day before. And again, that was through UNRWA of the UN that is now in dire need, might even be collapsing, both in its work in Gaza, but also in the West Bank. So 500 trucks a day, down 67%. And so this is just a trickle. And then lastly, I wanted to just before we move on, once the aid gets in, there's things that are stopping the aid, right? So it's military attacks, number one. No, number one is Israel's closed the borders. Number two is there's military attacks. It's very unsafe. We saw what happened to the World Central Kitchen workers, right? Deliberately targeted and killed. But then there's also extremist attacks. So these are Israeli settlers who actually are going now to the openings and the crossings and places where trucks do get in. And we've seen the videos of them dumping out the aid, destroying it because, I don't know, because God, I'm not sure, because colonialism, really. The State Department just this week issued sanctions on one of those groups, Savi 9, that had been blocking some of these routes. But I want to get specific about once the aid gets in, what kind of aid are we looking at and what are the things that get rejected? So the UN's Jans Lark explained back in April that there's a bunch of bureaucratic ways that the Israelis stop aid from getting. Of the trucks that do cross, there's a requirement that they remain half empty. So even those 50 to 150 trucks, they have to be half empty, according to their security protocol. There's also a requirement that the trucks from Egypt, so again, trucks that I think will be crossing in Karem Shalom or Rafah if it ever opens, that they come in, they unload everything, and then they leave before trucks from Gaza, Palestinian-run trucks, are allowed to pick up what is delivered. So that creates a whole
So it's a dead drop.
It's a dead drop, exactly. And they have to completely exit Gazan territory. These are Egyptian trucks if they come in. And then finally, and this is Jean, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, Lark, explaining that on top of that, food is actually the most likely thing to be rejected, specifically food aid that is headed north.
UN-coordinated food deliveries are much more likely to be impeded or denied access to areas requiring coordination within Gaza than any other humanitarian mission. So this is bureaucratic language for the fact that food convoys that should be going particularly to the north, where 70% of people face famine conditions, are more likely, actually 3 times more likely to be denied than any other humanitarian convoy with other kinds of material.
So that was sped up, obviously, but 3 times more likely to be denied. And Walter, let me just take you last. The Washington Post, again, wildly anti-Semitic outlet, has reported contacted 25 aid groups and asked, well, hey, what's being denied? What's being allowed into Gaza? What's being denied from Gaza? And all kinds of things. And they detail some of the ridiculous things that are being rejected from Gaza, which include anesthetics. So people can have their limbs amputated without dying of pain. Animal feed, cardiac catheters, chemical water quality testing kits, because so much of the water has been contaminated. Chocolate croissants. Heaven forbid.
Well, Israel has a long history of denying chocolate to Gaza, oddly enough. But yeah.
Such a random, no, we want those. No, they can outfit them and use them as bombs. field hospital boxes, flak jackets and helmets for aid workers, fittings for water pipe repair, generators, maternity kits. We know what an obstetric nightmare Gaza has become. Scissors in children's first aid kits. I mean, like sleeping bags are being denied. Stone fruits. Oh, they're gonna eat the fruit and then they're gonna throw them at the soldiers.
Francesca, I mean, just for perspective, I mean, they broke a window at Columbia University.
That's true.
I mean,
It
this
was
is all
likely
I
with
feel
a
like
with a
this
stone
is all
fruit as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they don't, the liberal media doesn't want to talk about any of that, obviously.
It
Right?
is. You know what else that stone fruit thing is reminding me of? Not to make it sad. I remember seeing a newborn baby who I'm not sure if they're alive. And it's kind of fucking evil that this is what it's reminding me of. But there was a video going around of a baby who did not have milk to drink. And so its mom was giving it the pit of a peach or an apricot wrapped in like cheesecloth to suckle on, because it was the only thing that would keep the baby satisfied and quiet. It was just like that little bit. And I swear to God, man, like how much more can anyone take of this? Can this world take of this? So
of course you looked at that. Of course, after seeing that, your first thought was, well, you shouldn't have voted for Hamas in 2005, right?
absolutely.
That was the first thing that you thought looking at that.
Well, I stamped out my empathy with pure propaganda, and that allowed me to continue living my life.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah. Oof, what would we do without it? So that's the broad, Walter, we've been sort of like wondering like what's getting in, what's not getting in. And so there you have it. A trickle of trucks that are half full, that are 67% down from what it was before, and half of the population expected to face death and starvation in a month. When we say that every moment counts, that every amount of pressure matters, that actually getting the Biden administration to finally fucking put a leash on this, on Israel, we mean it's truly saving lives. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.